Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the organizational tool that has literally changed my life. We're going to be talking about the bullet journal. And I don't know about all of you, but if you've clicked on this, you can probably resonate a little bit. But I have a history of buying notebooks and planners and calendars and apps and doing everything I possibly can to try and organize my brain. And usually within about a week, I realize that I've spent a bunch of money on something that I have lost interest in. And then it gets added to my pile of shame. I've tried apps like iCalendar, iProcrastinate, and countless other productivity tools, but to no end. I needed somewhere where I could put everything from to-dos to professional tasks, and somewhere that I could keep track of professional events. And then I stumbled upon the bullet journal, or the bujo. Yeah, I don't love that. The bullet journal was created by Ryder Carroll, and it's a way of organizing your plans, your events, your to-dos, your reminders, your lists, your brainstorming, all of that into one single notebook. Ryder Carroll actually created this tool because he himself was diagnosed with ADHD, and he wanted a system to help him increase his productivity and work with the unique demands of his brain. I saw this and I knew it's what I needed. I started using a bullet journal in about April of this year, and it's been working really well for me. This is the longest in my life, in my 24 years on this earth, that I have kept the same planner. I'm amazed with myself. And so I wanted to show you guys how to use one. And I'll be showing you how I've used mine throughout the last few months. Before I show you the inner workings of my brain, I thought this would be a good time to remind you that bullet journals, one of the main tips I'm going to give you throughout this video, is that they don't have to be pretty and they don't have to be perfect. They just have to work. But I have literally ripped out pages of previous notebooks because I haven't written things down neatly enough, or it doesn't look nice enough. But something about this planner and the eclectic style of just having everything in there all at once, that's made me feel that it's less important to have things look a certain way. It just needs to work. So let's begin. What you're gonna need is a notebook, a pen, I recommend some colored pens, and maybe a ruler, if you so choose. A bullet journal is primarily made up of a few core sections and components that are going to help you along your organizational journey. The first component of a bullet journal is the index. The index is gonna be typically the first thing that we put into our bujo. Still don't like it. The creator recommends about 4 pages for your index. So that's what I've done. It's a way of reminding yourself where all the things in your bullet journal are. How to make use of it is that you write down page numbers on every single page that you use, or you buy a notebook with already numbered pages. And this way, your index can be used to specifically refer to a certain page. Using my own journal as an example, if I wanted to find the list of video ideas that I made previously, I would be able to find them because I go to my index and then I see that they're there on page 14. Scooting along to page 14, and there are my video ideas. The index therefore makes sure that you don't ever lose a page and that you know where your ideas are stored. The challenging part, of course, is remembering to add the things that you've written to your index. I actually have to do that right now. Give me a second. But once it becomes a habit, it all works out. Are you with me so far? After we've done our page numbering and we've left 4 pages blank for an index, the next component of our bullet journey is the key. And this is an important component because it consists of a set of symbols that represent a certain type of entry in your bullet journal. For example, a task might be written as an open circle, or a plus sign might be an event. This is the key from my bullet journal, but to be honest, I don't even think I've used them all. The keys just make it a little bit easier because when you're looking at your day-to-day, it allows you to see exactly what needs to be done. And you can choose the symbols that work best for you. I've just taken some of these from the creator of the bullet journal and then just what I like to look at. And then what do? You make sure that page that you've just written your key on is numbered, and then you go put it in your index. You write page 5, key. Now the next important part of the bullet journal is the future log. And this is where we have an overview of the upcoming months all together. So it's kind of like your yearly plan. Typically this section is used to record future events, or it's even to set long-term goals and deadlines. I structured this purely by writing out the months and then writing out the events I wanted to remember. Simple enough, right? And it really doesn't have to look like mine by any means. There are so many different ways that you can style it and that you can structure it. I mean, bullet journals blew up on Pinterest, so take a look there. You will be overwhelmed by the amount of creativity that is out there. Like, you people are amazing, and truly people come up with some amazing designs. But for me, the simple stuff like this overview of the month has been working. So it's completely okay if you want to start there. It doesn't need to be hard, doesn't need to be complex. Moving on from the future log, we have the monthly log. And this is where, you guessed it, you write your plan plan out for each month. The creator of the bullet journal keeps this part really simple. He advises simply writing down a list of all the days in the month, and then next to it, writing the first letter of the day of the week. I personally prefer just writing like Monday or Tuesday, but something about that just makes it feel like it looks nicer or more together in my head. So you can see I've switched to that in the later iterations of what my bullet journal looks like. So still pretty similar. And as someone who hasn't had luck with any planners in the past, I quite like the monthly log looking like this because it doesn't remind me of my pile of shame and it doesn't look like calendars that you're used to seeing, right? And what do you do when you finish a step? You guys should know this. Make sure you've got that page number marked down and then make sure you add it to the index. That way you'll know exactly where the month of January 2024 starts, the month of May 2023 starts. A bit late on that one. I couldn't come up with any other month of the year. And once we have our future log and once we have our monthly log, we move on to the weekly or daily log. This is where you write down everything that you have to do and when you have to do it. Mine's set up pretty simple. Again, I just have the 7 days of the week on one page and a section for notes at the bottom. Throughout the weekly logs, because months obviously have different amount of days and I like my calendars to start on Monday, I usually have some space at the bottom of each page for a note section. And this is where I kind of scribble or brainstorm or just purge the ideas that I have in my head. For example, here I was rewatching Game of Thrones and here are some questions I had afterwards that I wanted answers when I was reading the books. I wrote this down just after my July weekly logs were finished, and because of the page numbers I was able to index that brainstorming session. Now whenever I feel the need to remember my many Game of Thrones questions, I know exactly where to find them. Even though it might feel a little bit weird to like brainstorm in the middle of where you've got all your to-dos and your events or whatever, I actually really like it. Because of the index, it still feels like it's organized and it allows me to be messier and to just write things down when I need them and actually use one journal for everything I need. So it seems to really work for me. With the weekly log, you can also play around with different setups. For me, this is what it looked like at the start. Clearly very hectic, but now we're streamlined. I'm liking my 7-day approach. I've done it all the way up until January 2024, so I better like it. It's looking slightly more put together, but still, look at these examples on Pinterest. Oh my gosh, people are amazing. Now, a really important part of the weekly or the monthly logs is the concept of migration. And this means that if you don't get your certain tasks done by the end of the week or at the end of the month, or even at the end of the day, then you put an arrow next to it. And this little arrow means that the task needs to be carried forward. It needs to still be done. If we quickly revisit my key, you can see that I've got these arrows here for when a task is either being moved up in urgency or for when it's being pushed back. If you feel like you're consistently moving tasks forward or consistently putting them off and they're not really important, then it might mean that it is time to take that task off your list. Maybe just take it off for now or until you properly have the space to focus on it. For me, I often have to migrate things forward if I write down too many things on one day. So I actually like the concept of migration with the bullet journals because I find it's a helpful way of reminding myself that I don't need to do everything in one day and not everything needs to get done all at once. But it's also just a good way of prioritizing, right? Like if I'm consistently saying I'm going to do yoga and I just keep migrating it, maybe yoga is not in my heart. Maybe I'm not meant to be super flexible. So the concept of migration does kind of help remind me that it's okay to set myself a reasonable amount of tasks. And the last part of bullet journals are collections. They're optional, but they include things like habit trackers or fitness trackers, lists of restaurants to try, or anything you could possibly want. Maybe even a list of questions that you would ask the creators of Game of Thrones about season 8. Anything you want can be included. And as long as you index it, you've got your little page numbers, you're gonna know exactly where to find it. And all of that is the main concept of the bullet journal. I do have a few bonus tips or points for you that I wanted to mention because I think they've helped me to stay a little bit more organized. So for example, I bought a ring binder to act as my journal. That way I can move pages around if I need to, but it also means that I'm able to add extra pages if I run out of space. So if I'm having a particularly intense brainstorming session, I can give myself the extra room. It'll still be there in the index, but at least it'll be all relatively in the same area. I haven't actually needed to do this yet, but I do like knowing that I have the option. The ability to add things like extra bits of paper also means that I don't have to buy a new notebook every single time because I can keep it all in one. So for example, if I have long-term goals from January 2023, but I'm already in January 2024, then keeping it all in one book just allows for a little bit more continuity until that goal is ticked off. Whereas if I had to buy like an actual planner, then I'd have to get one with the proper dates and gosh, nightmare. I also have these little colorful cardboard inserts, and I use them to separate my index, my future log, and then my weekly and monthly logs. I also use it as a means of showing where in my planner I'm actually up to in the weekly logs, and that way I don't lose my page if the book closes. Because of this, you may have noticed, I didn't feel the need to number my index pages, and I didn't feel the need to number my future log pages. But I do know that a lot of people have done that with their bullet journals. But for me, the clear distinction of sections just kind of allows my brain to be a little bit quieter. And my last tip, and this is purely a preference thing, but I chose to use graph paper instead of lined paper. It might not make a difference to you, but in my head, I just felt like it looked a little bit neater. Like, I can't imagine writing out those monthly logs with the list of numbers on a blank piece of paper without then like ruling the lines and stuff. I mean, you saw those early weekly logs. Do I need more anarchy by having blank paper? No, graph paper for me. And I think it is worth mentioning one more time that once you have the basics of the Bujo down, I don't like it. Once you have the basics of that bullet journal down, like the index, you've got your general structures for the months and the weeks, you really can make it look like anything. Like, truly, I got lost in it. Like, just Google bullet journal, and the amount of ideas that people have is just, wow. Bullet journals can also be a really great creative outlet for this reason, especially if you just let yourself explore and just like write down or decorate it however you want. And it can be this creative outlet if you embrace what I think one of the core tenets of this organizational tool is, which is flexibility. So this bullet journal has been the organizational tool that honestly has worked the best for me in my life. I've never kept the same planner for so long, so I think that's a win. And I know it might be boring for some, but sometimes I really do just like the process of setting up my next month or taking the time for myself to kind of refresh and write out the next month worth of weekly logs. I know that might be boring for some people, but I've enjoyed it. If you guys do try this, I would love to know what you think. Or if you do use it already, is there anything that you think that I've missed that I should be adding? I would love to know. What would you include that I haven't? I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. And I just wanted to remind you that if calendars or tools or planners don't work for your brain, that is okay. This is one that's worked for mine, and I think it's worth trying, but I also understand the shame of not wanting another failed planner in your life. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, everybody. And now that I have written the script and filmed this video, guess what I'm gonna go do? Thanks, besties. See you next time. Hey, you see that subscribe button? Go ahead and click it. Come on, you know you want to.